Jesus came and said that, did you not see that David ate the showbread and with his army, and yet God did not touch him? But no one dares touch the showbread if you are not a priest. But David ate it, and God behaved as though he has not seen. No one dares wear the garment of Abiathar, the high priest, but David took it and inquired of the Lord, and the Lord said, pursue, you will overtake and recover. Men of covenant. They were men that sometimes they misbehave, and it's as though God have not seen. A man has slept with a fellow man's wife, impregnated her, and killed the man. God got angry, and what would God do? God decided to punish the children of the man. Left the man and fought the children of the man. His son Absalom was behaving like a fool. Why? Because he was under the consequence of his father's sin. Tamar was raped by Amnon. Amnon behaving like a fool. Why? Because he was under the consequence of his father's sin. Why don't you let the father bear his own consequence? Why? Because he's under a covenant. My covenant will I not break. He has promised him that I have a covenant with David, and that covenant I will not break it. So even if the man makes a mistake, I will overlook him and deal with his children. Because of that, one child of his had to marry 1,000 women. Consequence of his father's sin. Now God will not touch the father. Strive to enter into a covenant. There are dimensions of covenant. The one you have now is the outer court covenant. You can't do much with it. You only enter heaven with it. Okay. That is why you have to be careful if you are dealing with some of the fathers and mothers we see today. Because most of them, by pain and toil and suffering and by diligence, have entered into covenant with the Lord. So what you will do and fall and never rise up, they will do and they are still working. You may never understand. If you meet a bishop sipping beer, sir, don't also attempt it. Some of them have entered into, I'm telling you a mystery. If you go and meet a bishop sipping beer and yet holds microphone and God moves like God have endorsed alcohol, that is why when you meet Noah drunk, don't talk about it. Even in his drunkenness, he will curse you and God will do it. Because when it comes to him, he has entered into a covenant. A certain father called Lamech covenanted that boy with God and said, I give him to you. He shall be called Noah. By him you shall comfort man of the work of his hands and of toils. The boy is a covenant boy that grew to fulfill the covenant as an old man. So many things that you will do that God will ship you, such men will do, and it will be like God have not seen it. God operates by 3 dimensions, and it runs through scriptures. He told Moses in Exodus 24, he said, bring the people and let all the people be at the bottom of the mountain. And he said, choose 72 elders together with you and Joshua. And he said, you should come to the top of the mountain. Then he took the 72 to the top of the mountain. And genuinely they thought that was the highest point of the mountain. Then they started eating and partying. Then the Bible said God showed up there. And he did not kill them. That means what they were doing in his presence were wrong. He did not touch them. He showed them mercy. But what he did was that he called Moses. And suddenly, Moses was captured in the cloud. And the Bible said no one saw Moses again. So there are realms where nobody sees your back. He told him, build a tabernacle. And he said, have the outer court, the inner court, and the holy of holies. The outer court is where everybody is. That's the place of salvation. That is where we share the blood. This is where everybody in Christianity is. You have been sanctified by the blood of Jesus. A sacrifice has been made for you. But there is an inner court. That is the place of the burning incense. And that is the place of the showbread. And that is the place of the menorah. It's the inner court. That is where we intermingle with prayer. The burning incense, prayer. We intermingle with Jesus as the bread of life. That is the showbread that only the priest could touch. And then we enter into the next realm of the menorah. That's the 7 spirits of God. So this is the place where you some of us can also step in, where you have a personal prayer life. And then you have gone beyond the gospel of salvation to the gospel of maturing into the image of Christ. That is dealing with the showbread. And then you move to another realm where you deal with the seven spirits. You intermingle with them so that you are developed in prayer and in the study of the word. Then you move to the third realm. That is the Holy of Holies. That is where you have the Ark of Covenant. And then God seated there. So after you mature in the inner court, then you step into a personal covenant with God. That is where a man can encounter God, and you see clearly that you are saved together with that man, but he's experiencing a dimension you are not experiencing. That is where God himself tabernacle upon a man. 3 dimensions. You can know where you are right now, whether you are in the outer court, that only the sacrifice of Christ and baptism, because they had the basin where people wash themselves, the priests wash themselves with water, and those are the 2 experiences of the outer court, being bought by the blood and then being washed by water. But you go deeper, where you intermingle with the showbread and then the menorah, and you intermingle with the incense, and then after that the high priest, even in the third realm only one person could access. That is, you enter into the third dimension, whereby you go to meet God, and then there is a personal covenant with you. That place too, you will go there and see another bread. That is manna. There is manna in the covenant. So there is the bread you see in the inner court, and there is a bread you see in the Holy of Holies. And then you go and see the budded rod of Aaron, and you see the mercy seat. You see it there. That is a place where a man walk under the mercy of God in an unusual way. That's the place where a man receives the rod, that is authority. And that's the place where a man receives the manna, that is divine supplies and divine provisions. It's a journey. You must get to the third realm. Then Jesus comes and then brings it down to us. I am the way, the outer court. I am the truth, the showbread, and the menorah. That is where you encounter truth. And he said, I am the life. That is the place of covenant with God, where you adapt a new life totally with God. You step into that realm, so you know where you are. That is why David, who is an emblem of Christ and the church, will have to ascend 3 realms. He was first anointed before his brothers, and then he began to have his fame by killing Goliath, ruling in a realm among his family, and the rest ruling among sheep and the wilderness by that oil before his family. And then Saul dies, and suddenly the tribe of Judah comes in and says, become our king. And they anoint him the second time, and he becomes the king on only the tribe of Judah. And the son of Saul takes over the other tribes as the nation of Israel. And then the son of Saul is killed again. And then David is called by the elders of the other tribes of Israel and say, we anoint you again, now become the king of the whole of Israel. So from being anointed before his family to being anointed before Judah, and then being anointed before Israel, 3 dimensions. Where are you? I don't know, but most of us are very comfortable in the outer court, where that is the first level, where you are claiming that you are saved. It's the first level. It's so nice when you are talking about, I'm a child of God, I am saved, but you get to a different realm where you are anointed to rule over Judah, and then you go into the third realm where you are anointed to rule over the whole of Israel. I don't know where you are, but after this conference somebody will be anointed for the third realm. I said somebody will be anointed for the third realm. Clap your hands and shout, I'm going into the third realm. Shout, I am going into the third realm in the name of Jesus. I don't know where you want to go to. I don't know the realm you want to adapt, but some of us will not remain at the outer court. Our target is life. He that has been given the gift of righteousness and abundant grace shall reign in this life. The target is life. I'm not on earth to manage life and to survive and to exist. I'm on earth to demonstrate a full covenant with God. Untouchable, unbreakable, unsurmountable. You can't stop me because I'm under a covenant. The thief cometh not but to steal, to kill, and to destroy, but I have come that ye may have life. Life is the Holy of Holies, where you deal with God by covenant. You don't deal with God by chance, it's by covenant. That's the place of life. When God steps into a covenant with you over your finances don't swing. It's a covenant. When you step into covenant, your life doesn't just alter anyhow. You have to strive to be in covenant with God. Your marriage is under covenant with God. Your finances under covenant with God. Your business under covenant with God. Your ministry under covenant with God. Most of us have not entered the third realm. That is why today we have something, tomorrow we lose. Today we have something, the devil can come and steal it. Because you have not entered into that realm of covenant with the Lord. I'm not saying I've gotten there. But I'm telling you, there's a place like that. There's a place like that. It's a place of covenant. Where God decides to show you mercy for who you are. Enter into the inner court. Do business in the inner court until the Holy of Holies is opened. Then you walk in. That is when the gospel of the cross translates into a person to you. Okay. Then you begin to look unto Jesus and be changed into the same image. After you are fully changed into Christ, then the Holy of Holies. Oh, eat of the sure bread until you look like him. That is when you are reading Matthew, John, Mark, and Exodus and Isaiah, you don't see scriptures, you see a person. The Bible says that the prophets and the Psalms spoke of me. So you start seeing a person, and you look upon the person until you are changed into the same being. And the moment you are changed by the 7 spirits of God, you are metamorphosized into his image. And then suddenly, the Holy of Holies is open. Then you go and meet that ark of covenant with God. I don't talk about men in their errors a lot, because woe unto you if the person is operating by a covenant you don't understand. It's there, it's there, it's there, it's there. Thank God I've opened to you that I have not gotten there, but there are men that have. It was when God called on Moses that they realized that there is another level on the mountain. And Moses spent close to 40 days in the cloud. When he came back, they couldn't look into his face. And for days and for weeks and for months, they had to cover the man with a blanket, because he was captured into the third dimension. You are in the way, but embrace truth. When you embrace truth, you will experience life.